Good afternoon, everyone. In today's session, we bring to you this much awaited workshop on the importance of open source. Today, open source has changed the face of technology as it allows customers to know how the code works, facilitating the development of the most innovative software. To know more on the topic, we have a very special guest with us today, the founder and CEO of Quine, Mr. Rodrigo Mendoza-Smith. I am sure many of you would be highly excited to get your queries answered regarding various topics throughout the session. So I would request you all to kindly type in any questions that you have in the chat box. Without any further ado, I now call upon Mr. Rodrigo Mendoza-Smith to kick off this highly anticipated workshop. Rodrigo, the virtual stage is all yours.
Monica, hello everyone. Very excited to be here with you. I am Rodrigo. I am founder of Quine. Quine is a platform for helping you guys contribute more to open source and build a very impressive open source portfolio. I will talk more about the platform. First, let me tell you a bit more about the company. Like essentially, we're based in London. We're an early stage startup, but we're very excited to sort of like be here because what we're building it for people like you. So in my talk, essentially, it will be a short talk. I basically want to just run you through the problems we're solving, how we're solving them, and why it is important for you to contribute to open source. As essentially you already heard, open source is changing how software works. It's changing how software is written. It's changing how we collaborate with each other. It does not only give us visibility of how the code is written and the security vulnerabilities. It also gives other visibility of what our contributions are in building open source, right? So one of the most important aspects in open source is essentially the attribution aspect, or like the the contribution aspect of open source, right? Just as the way that writing software is changing, also like the way in which companies are looking at developers is changing. Right now, it's no longer sufficient to say have a degree in computer science or like go to a boot camp. If you guys want to really stand out and differentiate yourselves from like a workforce that is global and is world class, the best thing you can do is to write open source. And why is that? Because open source is code that is used by millions and millions of computers, and is code that is written in the open, that is highly collaborative, and that sort of like is subject to the criticism, the constructive criticism of many developers around the world. So I don't know if you can see my presentation. Right. So okay. Yes. So here's my presentation. I prepared a short talk on intro to open source. This is by Quine. Again, like we're a company that we're working on the problem of quantifying experience from open source data, and I am going back to the second problem that we were talking about with open source. Like one of them is like, yes, we can build code in the open, but also the work we do is visible and can be attributed to us. So one of the big problems that now we have to solve is how can we make our contributions work for us to sort of like help us achieve our like work aspirations or contribution aspirations. And that's what we're doing at Quine, right? And essentially, how we're starting at Quine is we built a platform that can help you build verifiable experience by solving GitHub issues. And you might think like, wait, like whenever I solve a GitHub issue, is already verifiable, right? Like the data is already there. But really, like, we're taking this like one step further. So essentially, what we're doing is, we're kind of like aggregating all of the activity you have on GitHub on say like a single account, and we're using this data to power machine learning models. And these machine learning models can are basically like doing a few things for you, right? Like, one of the first things they are doing is, they're helping us recommend you great content in open source. And essentially, just as TikTok and Instagram are like creator economies and are based on content, also GitHub is essentially like a content platform, and open source is a creator economy, right? So open source is essentially like a creator economy for coders like you, and as a creator economy has many uh, problems that are similar to the problems that are permanent on social media, like the problem of attention, right? At the moment, there are approximately 20,000 new repos that are essentially started on GitHub every single day. And each of these repos at some point ends up like wanting new contributors, like writing issues for you guys to solve. And one of the key problems that contributors are facing is dealing with this vast amount of content, right? Like, it is really very difficult to find the communities in open source that you really want, or you really like, just by browsing GitHub. The amount of open source repositories and the amount of issues is just like staggering. It's very large. So what we set ourselves to build is a content platform for open source projects, and specifically targeted to projects that are open to having new contributors, and that have, let's say, a high concentration of good first issues. So I know you guys might be familiar with issues, and like the basic workflow in open source. But you might not be familiar of a particular type of issue that is called good first issue. So good good first issues are essentially issues that the maintainers or the project owners create specifically for new contributors in the project. They're designed to be issues that can be solved in, like, let's say, a few hours, or like a few days, for like very complex projects. And these are the issues that have the purpose of helping the new contributors get acquainted with the code base and have a first contribution before they sort of like embark themselves to like solve new issues and contribute to the code base in a deeper way. So sorry, many repos in GitHub and open source write good first issues. And we think good first issues are essentially the way to catalyze these sort of like virtuous contributing flows between developers and repositories. Right now, the way in which new contributors will contribute to repository is is um, is like most frequently, like how they end up contributing to repository is they become users of a project. They essentially like spot like a bug or a lack of a feature, and then they essentially go to GitHub and propose the new issue, and then they essentially like end up solving the issue. um, there's like essentially like a new, let's say, way to look at issues and working in open source, which is a bit more um, like a bit more, let's say, like targeted to like not necessarily committing to a single repository, but essentially like exploring many repositories and working on many different issues at a single time. And we think that essentially that good first issues are the best way to catalyze this behavior, right? Like good first issues are the best way to help people like you guys contribute to new projects without necessarily being users of a tool, or like like long-term users of a particular framework or library, etc. It's very well known that good first issues essentially are very good for new contributors, because again they help them get this first experience into open source. And we have also like realized that good first issues are great for repositories as well. In this figure, essentially like what we did here is we sampled like thousands and thousands of repositories in open source and measured the number of contributors of these projects over time, right? And then we averaged these numbers and segmented by how many stars this repository had. And what we wanted to what we wanted to show here is the correlation between having good first issues in a project and the final number of contributors that the project has in its lifespan, right? The figure on the left shows the average number of contributors of repositories X days after the first commit, um, when these repositories don't offer open issues or don't offer good first issues. The figure on the right shows again like a time series of the number of contributors of repositories from the day of the first commit. But all of these repositories essentially like offer good first issues. So like we can see from this figure how really the difference in community in terms of community building is really strong for repositories that offer good first issues. So there's been this discourse for many years on like how good first issues are very good for developers, but there's not so much discussion on whether good first issues are are good or not for repositories. And essentially like if a repository has a goal of expanding its user base or expanding its contributor base, then good first issues are indeed a very good tool, right? Okay, so now let's try to understand like how essentially Quine say like helps you find the best repositories and the best good first issues. So essentially like Quine is an interface in which you can essentially disclose which languages and which topics you want to gain experience on. And then what we will do is we will kind of give you those repositories that match your topics and language preferences that have the most number of good first issues, right? And we're doing this because by doing so, then we're giving you the location of those low hanging fruits that you can explore and like kind of like assess, and then at finally like solve and yeah and start building your open source portfolio. I want to say here that there are of course like many ways to build an open source portfolio. One way is to just like start a repository yourself, start a project, like talk about it with your friends, and like then like hopefully like grow the number of contributors, and that's extremely cool. But there's an element of reputation in trying to solve issues of established projects that people are already using, and that many companies and computers and developers are already using on a daily basis, right? So so at this stage, Quine is essentially like helping you find these projects and helping you let's say um, break this like noise barrier in open source, and yeah, just kind of like get those projects directly at your fingertips, right? So what happens when you found the repos you want and you have solved the issues you want? Then it's time to show it off and sort of like tell people about it and just add it to your profiles, and kind of like uh, tell everyone what you've done. so so to help you do this, we're building like a number of tools. One of them is a developer profile that focuses on verifiability of skills. So essentially, like in this developer profile, what it will be able to do here is um, it will be able to provide evidence to any viewer of like possession of knowledge in a language, a topic, a framework, etc., right? So you might have seen how people tend to, I mean, on LinkedIn, people tend to say like, I know Python, I know Rust, I know Julia, and at the end of the day, it's just like a trust me, bro type of statement. Um, what we're doing at Quine here is helping you back these statements with pointers to open source contributions. So if you say you know Python, we will essentially go through your contributions on GitHub. We will classify them, and we will essentially help you render the contributions that relate to Python, so that an external person and an external viewer can actually verify that you know Python. We have like a lot of ambitions for this profile. This is just the V1, but yeah, like I do recommend you to check it out. And we're also like starting to like experiment with widgets that you can embed directly in your GitHub profile. And these widgets, of course, we're working on a few GitHub specific widgets, but we're also working on a number of widgets that gravitate around your Web3 reputation. Web3 is going to be again like a really important paradigm shift in how the internet works, and not only that, like how essentially like people like collaborate, communicate, etc. And there's definitely right now, even in the early days, already a notion of reputation in Web3, right? Like what your activity on Web3, like how does it look like, how active are you in different sub communities. We've built functionality in Quine that allows you to connect your MetaMask and essentially like give Quine some sort of like visibility on your public activity in Web3, and then create sort of like widgets that allow you to like say like show off how active you are, for example, on Snapshot or POAP, or like how many days you've been on Ethereum, like the number of events per day, etc. Right? Like what we're trying to do here is like helping you paint a picture of yourself, not only from open source, but also from say like from Web3 data sets, so to speak. Amazing. So what's next at Quine? So we're investing a lot on this like explore tool. Our goal here really is to help as many people as possible find the communities they not that match their interests, but also their level of skill. And we're going to be releasing like a number of features over the next 3 months. Some of them very, very cool features around reputation, around leaderboards, around the tools that to help you better manage your work in open source. We're very, very excited about this. And we're also about to release a number of features targeted specifically to like repo owners and maintainers. So yeah, I really suggest you to like check it out. Please like create an account. Let us know what you think, and sign up to our newsletter to like be up to speed and aware of like what's coming next. So that's essentially the my talk. I would be very, very happy to answer any questions if there's any. And yeah, I just want to finally congratulate you all for participating in this hackathon. It's really, really great, and it's definitely not easy to like create something very, very cool in such a small period of time. So congrats to everyone, and and yeah, like over to the hosts.
So we don't, because we don't have any more questions. I would like to thank you, Rodrigo, for such an enlightening session. It was an honor to have you at our
The honor is mine. Thank you, Varnica. Thank you for the invitation. Hello. So I've been told the host has network issues. And we have a question here. Shouldn't the platform for open source must be open as well? Um, if you mean it must be open source, uh, yeah, like we do plan to open source some of the components of the platform, but it's just not feasible for us right now to open source the full platform, right? Maybe at some point. Uh, yeah. Any other questions? Oh, I missed that question. Can you post it again? Is there any prerequisites for contributing to open source? Not really. I want to say that contributing to open source, um, like the prerequisites, sort of like vary from project to project. I'm from contribution to contribution, right? Like if you want to solve say like an issue around documentation, then you only need to sort of be able to understand the code very well and to write documentation very well. So not every contribution needs to be coding contribution. Um, like I think like yeah, like a basic prerequisite would be to know like one language very well, potentially like yeah, like to like try to understand the code base very well. But there's no like single rule for all issues, and the prerequisites vary a lot. Any other questions? What are the benefits if you contribute open source? That's an excellent question. Well, first of all, um, is like reputation, right? Like if you contribute to a project that say like has many stars on GitHub, or kind of like is already used by many people, or many computers, you are doing something that is validated, right? So if you're a young developer, it's much better to spend your energies contributing to open source than maybe like replicating a like some like template project, or whatever. Um, so like one of the key benefits is of course like learning. Like you will be learning a lot by just trying to figure out a way to submit a pull request to a specific issue, but also by working on the revisions that the maintainer will give you when trying to solve an issue, right? So think about it as uh, to make an analogy, right? Like if you were a photographer, and say like you didn't have Instagram, then no one would really know like what your work is, why your work is relevant, or like why kind of like you're a good photographer. So similarly, if you are a coder, it's in your best interest to have as much of your work as possible open source, to sort of let people know how good you are, what are your interests, what you can do, etc. Right? So yeah, like I guess like the main benefit in contributing to open source is standing out from the crowd. Right now, it's very easy to acquire knowledge, and learn to do something. What is very difficult is essentially like standing out from everyone else that learned that same concept, or like watch that same YouTube video. So open source is a great way for young developers to stand out. Any other questions? How to choose repositories for contributing? So that's essentially what Quine is for. like what we recommend for is that you first on you first sort of acknowledge which languages you're good at, or already know, and then kind of think about a topic you want to learn, or a community you want to join. It could be it could be anything from like Web3, machine learning, security, etc. So I think really only you can answer this question, and in order to answer this question, what you need is to see a lot of repos, like browse a lot of repos, look at the readmes, read what they do, read what are the sort of like rules for contributing, and that's often located in the contributing.md file in the repository. So I definitely recommend that you just sort of like engage with your curious self, and just explore the open source ecosystem, read a lot of readmes, like clone a lot of repos, play around with them, and then you will start to develop a taste for repositories, and you will be able to answer that question, right? Like you should choose repos based on your level of skill and your aspirations, essentially, right? So and there's no better way than to like go to Quine and then just like browse and explore the catalog of repos that we have there. Next question. How does contributing to open source impact one's career? Really, in many positive ways, right? Like if you're a developer and contribute to open source, and if you contribute to an important project, for example, there will be like many recruiters around the world trying to get some time with you, to sort of like offer you job opportunities, etc. Right now, a lot of recruiters around the world use GitHub to sort of understand which developers are the top developers in a particular language or in a particular topic. So definitely like building high quality so like contribution portfolio is gonna help you signal that that you are top class and you can get like that particular job, right? And again, I guess the benefit of open source now is increasingly in sort of like changing how people learn, right? Like to put an example, before, if you wanted to have a job, you had to go to college, right? Like you wanted to program computers, you had to go to university, learn how to program a computer, and you had to go through like that like coursework. In the last decade, it was like boot camps were quite popular, so you didn't have to go to college. You could just go to a 6 month, 12 month like course, and then you could get a job. And sort of like if we extrapolate that sort of trend in the future, maybe you will not even need to go to a bootcamp, right? Like you will learn the basic skills online, and then what you will have to do after is just validate your skills. And the way to validate them will be to like build something in the open and build something that people use, and that's sort of like done within the open source ecosystem. Thank you, Yayesh. Next question. Cool. So Prashi Nandi is asking, how can I find open source projects that aligns with my area of interest? Is it only through GitHub? One way is GitHub, another way is Quine, right? And again, if you log into Quine, you'll have like a very nice interface in which you can kind of like browse these repositories that have a high concentration of good first issues based on your topic interests and language interests. Thank you, Prachi. Next question. Is there another question? Okay, there aren't any more questions. Amazing. So thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you for listening. I just want to say that, yeah, like we're building Quine for developers, like you guys. So we would really love to hear your thoughts on the platform, and as well if you want to keep in touch with what we're building, you can also follow us on Twitter at Quine_sh. Here's Varnika.
Yeah, sorry about that. There was some network issue on my side. Once again, thank you so much for being here, Rodrigo. And again, I would like to inform you about the leaderboard. Hack and ITR has this awesome initiative of the leaderboard to encourage everyone, regardless of technical knowledge. The idea is simple: the more you learn, the more points you earn. The code for today's session is YODA, Yoda. Use the code in the form that will be shared in the comments down below and rise up in the leaderboard. I would graciously like to thank the organizing team of Hack and ITR, along with our teams of Open Source and GDAC, for bringing to us this wonderful session. And finally, I would like to thank the audience for joining us. We have more workshops aligned for you today. Check out our Instagram handle for the timings. Follow us on our socials for further updates. Thank you.
Thank you.